Hello and welcome to today's episode. I'm your host for the day, Ms. Prarthana Banerjee, BW Education. And today I have Mr. Aziz Tayyebi, Director International for Becker Professional Education. Mr. Aziz is responsible for the development of Becker's professional education portfolio across international markets outside of North America. Aziz has helped develop and launch countless professional training programs with leading learning institutions and corporates globally. Welcome, and Mr. Aziz, I have a set of questions for you that I would love for you to answer and take this conversation forward. The first question is something from your very own professional life, and you have been associated basically from Ernst & Young to ACCA to Becker Professional Education. If I ask you, what is that one singular takeaway, then what would your answer be?
Well, I mean, Pratna, having mentioned now, reflecting now on some of those organizations that I've worked for, I must say, gosh, I've been quite lucky in some of the companies that I've worked for, I must say. And I think the first thing that springs to mind is good fortune. It's always a huge factor, I believe, in anyone's career and opportunities presenting themselves at the right time. Of course, there are some things which we can all do right ourselves, and I've done right, I think, making some of that good luck. Little bit of hard work, I think, always pays off. And I think also positively seeking opportunities, whether I was at EY, looking at transfers or seeking to work on projects and initiatives when I was at ACCA, most certainly gave me some opportunities which otherwise I might not have got. And I think also, frankly speaking, for myself personally, I think taking some risks, they've been calculated, but I think they've been done with confidence and a bit of calculation. Essentially, I gave up what was a classic accounting career to move into a business development type role. As I say, taking some of those risks seem to have paid off. And I think the other kind of important takeaway is, I think around confidence, what is it that helps build that confidence to take some of those risks and those type of things? One, working hard definitely helps. Engaging with people around you, the people you work with, the clients that you work with, taking as much as you can from them. And also, I think an important factor for me has been keeping good counsel. That's an important area for me, for sure.
Lovely, beautifully answered. Now, you have actually launched countless professional training programs, which also means that you have been a part of a lot of projects altogether. So what do you do when you have a tight deadline and multiple projects to finish?
Wow, I think I'm doing that right now, actually, to be quite honest. But it's a good thing. It's a good thing, right? At this moment in time, things are very busy. And in the current climate, it's good to be in that position. Rather than, I don't think it's really any rocket science. It's really about quickly prioritizing. And the real question is, what is it that helps you prioritize, I think? What are the important factors? And sometimes I think it's important just to take a step back a little bit, stop and replan. There's that great poet, Robert Burns said, the best laid plans of mice and men. But, quickly, I think we all made plans for 2020, which we had no idea what was going to happen, right? And I think it's important to always take a step back when you're in that position where suddenly, there's a lot of deadlines coming up, as you said. Take a step back and replan a little bit, and understand the various deadlines that are in play. And always, I feel that it's always important to be, open and have frank conversations, whether it be with your clients, your colleagues, your managers. And I think regardless of size or status, they're all important. But understanding, if there's any flexibility, for example, in some of the deadlines and those type of things. I'll give you a classic example. You think about perhaps you're given a deadline by your manager to complete something by close of business on Friday. I would ask that if you're in that situation where you've got multiple things on, I would always ask the question, are you going to do anything with this over the weekend? Because if you're not, then I will. I can use that time to finish it off and you'll have it first thing in the morning instead. Suddenly you bought yourself a couple of days. So the message is really just around having that conversation, frank conversation with your peers, your managers, your clients, and all of those things. And that kind of links into the other point around managing expectations in the first place. You know, it does happen sometimes without, you know, as much as you plan. I think it's important to plan well. You know, I try to put even tasks sometimes in my diary so that I will do that. I will not be disturbed by anything else, no matter what, unless it's obviously something urgent. But that way I know that I will focus on what I need to get done at a certain time to enable me to get to forward it on and whatever else. And I think the other important thing, frankly, Ratna, is, you know, engaging with colleagues and putting trust in colleagues, because, you know, the chances are you're not going to be doing any of these projects in isolation. You'll be working with other colleagues and those type of things, understanding their own commitments, limitations, and those type of things. And delegation, you know, I think you've got to sometimes have the confidence to delegate. Sometimes people think, you know what, I'm the only person who can do this properly or do it well. And I try to get around that sometimes by making sure that investing some time early on to coach those other colleagues. Usually they don't need it, but, you know, sometimes just coaching them, knowing that, you know, that little bit of coaching early on, a little bit of time and investment early on can take away a lot more time later on, recorrecting things and doing those type of things. So I think obviously planning is critical anyway. Some things we can't plan for, but I think taking a step back, reevaluating, being frank conversations wise, and delegating, having the confidence to delegate and bring people on board with you.
So this answer of yours actually brings me to the next question, which is very similar to the previous one, but more in depth, you can say. And that is, what is your leadership style and what is your roadmap to actually reaching the top notch in your area?
Okay, that's a good question. I mean, I've got a long way to go before reaching the top notch in my area, I must say, but I'm comfortable where I am. But, you know, Pratana, there's so many books, good books on good management, leadership style, skills. But for me, I think the most important factor has been empathy, being able to empathize with, you know, my colleagues, my managers, directors, clients, those type of things. You know, in many ways, I'm quite lucky that despite having taken some of those risks that I talk about in my career, I've always been in the finance and accounting space. So what that enables me to do is have that understanding of all stakeholders within that sphere. You know, whether it be a student looking to start their career, or an L&D director looking to put together a program to support their employees, or a learning institution looking to put together a best-in-class training program or whatever else. Having been through there and understood those various roles within the finance and accounting world, what it's enabled me to do is build trust. And I think empathy enables you to do that. You know, you're able to kind of understand, help, and build trust. So I think that's been an important point. And I think at the same time, balancing that element of empathy and understanding with being able to make decisive and firm decisions, because you can't always accommodate everyone's viewpoint. And sometimes you just need to provide clear direction. And especially so, you know, you talked about those times when you've got pressurized deadlines and that type of environment. And sometimes confusion leads to procrastination and things just not getting done. So being able to make well thought through and listening, but then making decisive decisions and providing direction, I think that helps a lot, especially in those, as I said, pressurized situations. Taking people's views on board, as I said, the empathy side, but then being able to make the right decision to move everyone in the right direction.
Amazing. So till now, our audience could get your pieces of wisdom and advice from your own, roadmap. But right now, you have actually helped develop and launch countless training programs, and ultimately, you have ensured candidates that they have been able to maximize their chances of obtaining career-defining. And India's unemployment rate, very unfortunately, right now is at a record high of 27.1% in 2020. So, how do you see actually Becker professional education turning the table altogether?
Well, I mean, those numbers that you mentioned there, these are horrible times. And it's globally the case. I think countries across the world, all major economies have probably got the worst, the worst unemployment rates they've ever had. And there is so much uncertainty right now, which, it is what it is, regardless of what type of business you're in, or even you are in your careers. Everyone's it's on the back of their minds. Interestingly, one thing that I've noticed, not just now, I'm certainly seeing it now in many countries around the world, but in other times, learning and education is critical during this time of uncertainty. And actually, there tends to be an increasing demand for learning and education as well. And you can understand why. I talked about confidence earlier, and once personal confidence you can build up. If you're a student aspiring to enter the job market for the first time, taking the time out to do a professional qualification, investing to do it. Let's face it, it's an investment of both time and money. But doing that now, knowing that it can differentiate you in what's becoming an even more crowded and condensed job market, with more and more candidates applying for the same job, it can make a big difference. Similarly, as you're into people who are into their careers, myself included, taking that time to invest now, what it shows is, whether it be domain knowledge, becoming a, professional accountant, or doing other types of qualifications and upskilling, to me, what it shows is, and what it shows, I guess, to your managers, to your potential managers, is your commitment. It shows your dedication, and of course, knowledge as well. And, Pradhan, if you think about it, the letters CA, CPA, 2-3 letters after your name, what they really represent, as well as representing your domain knowledge and expertise, I think, to me, and I think to many hiring managers, it also demonstrates those traits. You're hardworking, you're committed, you're smart. And I think those things are always going to be in demand. And it's, to be frank, it's exactly the reason why Becker, all times, but especially now, really try to build confidence in companies, in markets, and individuals, essentially by continuing to produce high quality professionals, because those professionals are the ones who are going to drive us out of the current situation. And I think it's really important that people realize that this isn't going to last forever, and it's actually an opportunity to really build up your skills and prepare you for the next steps, even now in these very difficult situations.
What do you mean by skills? Because the skills that was relevant a few months or a few years back for employment are not very relevant right now. There's a demand for a new set of skills altogether. So
yeah, no, fair point. I think certainly to some extent that's absolutely correct. When you think about, I think there's always been that, we've seen that trend, and in particular in India, around the world, of having those softer skills and those type of things, and IT skills, of course, no doubt about it. Whatever profession you're in, if you do not excuse me,
not a problem at all.
If you do not have proficiency in certain areas like IT skills and those type of things, you're going to struggle. So that's a critical area for sure. And I think also, as you move up your career, it's almost taken as granted. Let's say you're in the finance world, that's kind of where my domain expertise is. at a point, it will be taken as granted that you know certain things in relating to accounting, financial standards, those type of things. Then what is going to differentiate you in your career is your ability to manage people, is your ability to manage clients, and those type of leadership skills. Those are the areas which I think are going to be important in that respect. But at the same time, I would not, certainly when you're talking about professionals and professional qualifications, I think those skills are still going to be extremely and even more relevant than they have been, than they always have been. They're always going to be there, I think, because that level of expertise is thin on the ground, and the demand for it is actually outstripping the supply internationally.
Right. Mr. Tayyebi, what is your vision as a director? Like, where do you actually see Becker Professional Education in the next, say, 5 years?
Hopefully, I'm the CEO of Becker in 5 years. But no, I think seriously. I think Becker in 5 years. I think one thing for sure, that's definitely one of my objectives, is to make the international proportion of Becker's business much larger than it is now. Very much skewed towards the US for natural reasons as it is now, but that's definitely one of my key objectives. And actually, I firmly believe that, and I think it's already happening now to some extent, but I think Becker will start to take a much more international first approach, whether it comes to new products, innovations, strategies. I think international will be at the forefront of Becker's thinking, very much so. And honestly, I hope in 5 years' time there's no such word as Becker International. It might not be needed. Whilst we'll continue to have that strong global brand as Becker, I really hope that Becker becomes embedded within the fabric of professional education and learning in key countries like India. So there could well be a Becker India or a Becker Australia, but not necessarily a Becker International, I hope.
Right. The last question, but definitely not the least, that I have for you is, you are already somebody that a lot of aspiring accountants look up to, I'm sure, but especially after knowing your roadmap, your visions and insights, what is that one piece of advice that you would like to give out there to the aspiring accountants or people use in general who will be watching this interaction?
I think be brave. Be brave. Follow your dreams and aspirations and invest in them. As I said before, whatever it is that you choose to do, it's going to take, if it's worth doing, it's going to take time. It's going to be difficult. It might be costly, but don't let those things put you off. And especially now in these, as we said, very strange, uncertain times, you can still take ownership of your careers. And by taking ownership of your education and learning, you can do it now. The qualifications that you earn now, the skills that you upgrade to now, they're going to be the basis. And moreover, the basis, and also moreover, to propel your careers. This is it. Differentiate yourself now. You've got that opportunity. There are so many, compared to, 20 years ago when I was, looking to kind of start my career, the number of opportunities that are available now, and especially here in India, it's phenomenal. So take that power, empower your careers. Take that. It's interesting, Pratna, the other thing about accountants, you mentioned aspiring accountants. I think the other thing to remember is that, one, you can never be overqualified as an accountant. So you may well have your CA, you're becoming a CA. Hopefully many of the people who are watching this video are doing that soon. But, you cannot be overqualified. Get those skills to make you internationally recognized, like the CPA, which you could in India. Which, as I said before, 5-10 years ago, those opportunities weren't there. And And also, I would just bear in mind that as an accountant, you make great business people. You're not just someone who's great at putting together a balance sheet, a P&L, cash flow statement, whatever it is. Accountants empower good decision making, and take that power to drive your career now. You know, Pratna, I'm not a good example for many things, right? But, you know, the one thing is that, you know, I've been able to kind of use that knowledge and skills that I gained and nurtured as an accountant to grow and develop in, you know, a very different area. And I think that's the other key thing, you know, 100% as future accountants, aspiring accountants, you know, you should be looking to become partners, directors, CFOs, FDs, whatever it is. But you should know full well that you are perfectly equipped to excel in almost any aspect of business. And, you know, so just to close on that, Pratna, I would say as good accountants, do good due diligence about what qualifications and what paths are right for you. As I said earlier, consult the right people, have good counselors to help you make those decisions. And don't wait for someone to tell you that things are going to be better in 6 months' time, 12 months' time, and 18 months' time. Take that path now, be bold, take those decisions now, and it will almost certainly pay dividends soon enough.
They were really, really wise words, and it was an absolute pleasure to have you with us over here, Mr. Aziz. Love to have you back. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah,
good luck, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. We would love to have you.